Good morning. This is Wednesday, March the 23rd, and it is 11:06 a.m. So again, apologies for a late start. And just as a reminder, we have a lot of members. It's that time of year that'll be in and out presenting bills. And so we will keep our eye on our quorum, and we may have to take a few pauses along the way, but that's the purpose of that. So we will get started. Uh, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Representatives Sipiki, Dixie, Griffey, Harris, Haston, Hicks, Manis, McKenzie, Parkinson, Reagan, Rudder, Sparks, Warner, White, Madam Vice Chair Weaver, Madam Chair Moody, Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Members that are here, any personal orders? Yes, Chairman Reagan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to recognize my job shadow, Adam Falk. Adam, would you stand up, please? Let's make him welcome.
We hope you have a fun-filled day. And as is our custom, if you don't mind, excuse me, I'm moving too fast. Yes, Chair Lady Weaver.
Thank you, Chairman. And I was a little late in raising my hand there, but I would like to have someone recognize someone. I had a nice young lady in my office today who is sitting with us committee members. She is one of our future teachers, a very bright young lady who's going to be teaching math. And if J.C. Bowman would kindly introduce her, I would like for you to give her full first and last name and where she's from for me, if you will.
Yes, Mr. Bowman, please come forward and tell us that. Introduce your guest.
Amen. Thank you. Thanks, Mackenzie. We wish you the
Yes, thank you for joining us today. And thank you for your career choice. Members, next we traditionally do the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd like to join us, please do so. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. All right, members, we will take up our first bill on the calendar, House Bill 1850 by Chairman Hurt.
Motion, second.
You have a motion and a second. And are we putting on an amendment today?
Yes, ma'am, we are.
You'll give us that, which code, yes.
All right, the code on the amendment we'll be working with is 016169.
All right, members. You have a motion and a second on the amendment. I see it rewrites the bill. So members, if we could put that amendment on before we hear from the chairman. All right, no opposition, we will add the amendment. All right, Chairman Hurt, you may explain.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And before I get started, I want to add, it's great to see you. We missed you earlier this week, so it's great to have
Thank
you
you. It's good to be back. Thank you
Yes,
so much.
House Bill 1850, as amended, this bill expands the course access program that already exists in the code to provide new opportunities for learning experiences and educational opportunities for students outside of the classroom. It is being brought by the Educational Reform Group, Yes Every Kid, and is modeled after legislation that has passed in several states in recent years. It expands the course access program to allow for courses, internships brought by businesses, U.S. Armed Forces, for-profits, and trade associations, and allows the possibility for students to gain credit for taking those courses, provided that the course has been approved through the proper channels. And with that, Madam Chair, I'll take any questions.
Thank you for your explanation. And we'll start taking questions. Members, I see Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just to be clear, this bill allows every student, regardless of school, access to this these courses and this opportunity. It just does not allow a school with a D or F to prepare or present one of these courses. Is that correct?
Yes, Chairman.
Yes, sir. Great question and great clarification there. That is exactly correct. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Members, any other questions? All right, questions been called without any opposition. All in favor of passing House Bill 1850 on to calendar and rules, excuse me. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, you go to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee.
Thank you. Number 2 on our calendar, House Bill 272 by Chairman Powers. You have a motion and a second?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I presented this bill last week, and there was an unfriendly amendment attached to it. So I'm back this week to, I guess, talk about the amendment and see what we can do about it and get a vote on it, please.
All right. Chairman, I have the code as 016027.
No, it's not my amendment. No, this is the amendment from one of the committee members, but that is the correct amendment number, yes.
All right. And the posture we're in, the sponsor of the amendment is not with us right now. Yes, Representative McKenzie.
I was just asking if it was appropriate to roll this 2 spaces.
Seeing any objection? We have objection. All right. Members, yes.
I would just ask, is that parliamentary or is that a personal order? Well, I would ask, what I'd ask the member, I'm speaking with the chair in her consultation with legal.
Kristen. Okay, so according to the direction we've gotten, we will vote on whether to move it, roll it 2 spaces or not. And then if it fails, then we'll come back and deal with that. All right? All in favor of rolling this bill 2 spaces, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. All right, that fails. Now we're back on the bill. All right. Questions has been called without the amendment. Objection, I see one. I only see one hand. Okay, 2. I need 3. Okay, I only see 2. All right, we will need to vote on the call to objection. All in favor, say aye. Okay, we are voting on the call to question. Excuse me. Yes. Yes, correct. Aye means you're in favor of calling the question. No means you are not in favor of calling question. All right. Pardon me for the confusion. All right. All in favor of calling the question, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
I'm going to say the ayes have it. All right. Chairman Powers, you're recognized.
Okay, this is, just get a correction. This is on the bill as unamended, right? No, with no amendment on it, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I'm sorry. I was caught up in the parliamentary procedure there.
You are
But-
fine, so are we.
Okay.
Thank you.
House Bill 2742, it just requires.
Excuse me,
I'm
excuse
sorry?
me.
Sure. Okay, sure.
So we've already voted to call a question on the bill.
On the bill. Okay.
Yes, yes.
So just about,
Now we're voting on the bill without the amendment.
Okay.
Everybody clear? We are voting on the bill without the amendment. That's the posture we are in. So all in favor of House Bill 2742 without the amendment, please say aye. Any opposed? Bill passes to calendar and rules.
okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you,
Thank you.
committee.
Number 3, House Bill 1564 by Mitchell. Don't see him. Could we get a motion to take this off notice?
It's lots of those.
Oh, I'm sorry. I make a motion to take this off notice, please. It's been seconded. Without opposition, off notice. Number 4, House Bill 2818 by Representative Cooper. You have a motion and a second.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. You ready?
Thank you, Madam Chair and members, for your patience in
No.
the beginning of this.
Thank you.
House Bill 2818 has an amendment.
Yes, ma'am. Do you have that code for us, please?
Yes, ma'am. And that amendment only cleans up the language. It adds is urged to in section 1.
All right.
And the bill, if I may, requires each local education agency to include
Miss-
a course of study.
Excuse me 1
The
second. I'm
drafting
sorry.
code, okay, yes. Drafting code is 015321.
Correct.
Yeah. uh-huh.
Have a motion and second. Without opposition? Any opposition? All in favor, say aye. Goes on the bill. Yes, ma'am. Now, we will hear you out. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 2818 requires each local education agency to include a course of instruction for students in kindergarten through 12 with curricula designed to educate students in conflict resolution that is grade and age appropriate. And Madam Chair, do have, with your permission, Dr. Hunter and Mr. Walter. Dr. Hunter is the principal of Whitehaven High School, and his assistant principal, Mr. Walter Bates, with me. And Dr. Hunter is here to give a presentation and answer any questions.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. We do have their names on our list. So if you all would like to come to the table. We will go out of session. And if you will, again, restate your name and who you're with. And just as a side note, I graduated from Hillcrest. So big rivals, right? Good to have you.
The big green Viking. Good morning. My name is Vincent Hunter, and I am the principal of Whitehaven High School in Memphis, Tennessee.
Thank you. And we will give you 4 minutes to give your testimony.
Okay.
Thank you.
You know, many of us, when we get off work, we go home, we relax. But what would you tell a child that's 16 years old that says that he comes to school to sleep because he can't rest at home. I asked him, why can't he rest at home? And he told me that his life at home is hell. Have you ever looked in a child's eyes on Monday morning that ask you, could he eat lunch early? And I asked him, why did he want to eat lunch early? He said, because he hadn't eaten since Friday. Have you ever looked at a 7-year-old girl's eyes and had a conversation with her? And while you're talking with her, bed bugs are coming in and out of her backpack. Have you ever talked to a 15-year-old young man that said that he slept outside and you asked him why he slept outside? He said, because last night before he went to bed, he went to kiss his mother goodnight, and his mother's girlfriend jumped on him and told him, don't kiss her woman. Have you ever talked to a 16-year-old girl that asked to sleep in the library before the ACT exam? And I asked her, why did she want to sleep in the library before the exam? She said that she wanted to have a good night's rest before she take the ACT so that she can earn a great composite score so that she can continue her education in college. I said, well, why can't you sleep at home? She said that every time she goes home, her mother's boyfriend fondles her and makes her perform sex acts while he's there. The mother's at work. And she said, every time I tell my mother that he's bothering and touching me, my mother says that I'm lying and says that she's going to make me go and stay with my dad, who just came home from doing 10 calendar years, and his residence is the halfway house. All of this has happened to me as a building leader since we returned from COVID. Only a semester. If those stories doesn't bring tears to your eyes, then I don't know if you have a heart for education. My name is Vincent Hunter, and I've been an educator for 28 years. I've been the principal at Whitehaven High School for 18 years. Before becoming an administrator, I taught honors mathematics, including Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and geometry. We've done some amazing things at Whitehaven High School. In the last 9 years, Whitehaven has earned over $1 billion in scholarships. Less than 10% of that $1 billion was in athletics. We have over 300 former students who've earned a 30 or more on the ACT. We have 32 former graduates that now are educators at Whitehaven. So we've done some great things, and we're very proud of them. But our challenges far outweigh what we've accomplished. We're losing at the educational game. Our children need wraparound services, services that they can't get or earn from preparing for the ACT or the 10 Ready. Our children need conflict resolution. Our children need someone to talk to them when they have no one at home to talk to them as a mentor. Wouldn't it be nice at school if every school had a school psychologist instead of sharing one? Wouldn't it be nice if every school had a social worker? Wouldn't it be nice if every school had a SPED behavior specialist to help children with learning disabilities when they're having a crisis? Wouldn't it be nice if every school had a juvenile counselor service person on campus instead of sharing one? Wouldn't it be nice to have a nurse at school every day instead of sharing one that comes once a week on Fridays for 4 hours? Why am I expounding on those services, because those are the type of services that our children now need. If an educator hadn't been an educator in the last 2 years, he or she skill set is now obsolete. The new educator not only has to be fluent in ACT and 10 ready preparation, but our children now need services that our teachers are not trained. Our teachers are not trained counselors. Our teachers are not trained psychologists. Our teachers are not trained sociologists. We need services in our building to help children with day-to-day life skills. Until we address those situations, until we address those concerns, we will continue to have the haves and the have-nots. My biggest regret that I have as an educator is that when children graduate, our children are not internationally competitive. Our children go to school 180 days a year versus children that go to school 300 days a year. Right off the mark, our children are behind. We are very fortunate at Whitehaven because we offer 8 foreign languages. We're trying to get children to be internationally competitive. We've placed children at colleges all across this city and across this state and this country. But our issue is not getting children to college. Our issue is once children get to college, they can't stick and stay because they do not have the skill set needed for conflict resolution and being able to channel the waters of a very, very turbulent world. We need help in public education, and what we're doing now is not working. Thank you so much for listening.
We thank you for coming and taking time away from your important work and for bringing the harsh realities to the forefront and the efforts you're making to try to help these students. And I just thank you for being here and what you're doing.
Thank you for being
Members,
concerned.
of course, we would love for you to have an opportunity to ask questions. Representative Griffey, I see you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, lady, and thank you. Is it Dr. Hunt, Mr. Hunt?
Dr. Hunter.
Dr.
Either
Hunt.
one is fine.
Look, I applaud you for your efforts and your service to your community. We need more leaders like you. I do want, I mean, and I'm fully in favor of this bill for conflict resolution. I think we've needed this for a long time, and I'm glad Ms. Cooper, Representative Cooper, is bringing this to the committees for a vote, and I'm going to vote in favor of it. I do want to express some concern, as this is the Education Committee, that I'm concerned that we're asking our educators and folks in education to do stuff they're not trained to do, like you indicated. And, you know, we have agencies within the state of Tennessee that we spend lots of money on that are they're statutorily required to provide these services for the children and the individuals you've mentioned that are heartbreaking stories. And I wonder if we would be smart to limit our focus of our educators to doing the job of education. And if we've got problems with DCS and DHS not being able to pick up the ball, provide counseling, meet with these students that have these difficulties that you've expressed, we need to address that. And those agencies need to step up. But I'm worried that if we ask somebody to do something that's not in their wheelhouse, you know, you're taking away from what they're really good at. They may not be good at that. And then there's, you know, they're taking on too much. And if they can laser focus on international studies and students and getting everybody up, I think we'd be much better served. And if we've got a problems with DCS and DHS, I hope you and others will bring those to the legislators' attention, and let's try to address and fix those agencies or any problems in those services. But thank you so much for being here, and I fully support your mission and Ms. Cooper's bill. Thank you.
Well, I thank you for that comment, and I don't want to send the message that those agencies are not doing what they should be doing. But what's happening is that their caseload is so heavy Our children need intervention in real time, meaning that when they're in the middle of that crisis, they need help right now. They can't wait until we call DCS or one of those agencies, get an RN number, wait till the counselor come to the school. Too much downtime. By the time that child has intervention, it's 4, 5, 6 hours later. We need real-time intervention. And if someone was at our buildings that could help when that crisis occurred, that child becomes a better student.
Thank you for that. Yes, Chairman,
Just
Representative
brief-
Griffey.
I agree with you. You know, we've got school resource off there for the safety of the students in the community. You know, I don't see why we can't have
Thank you.
child support services officers in every school, and they're the go-to person to get stuff resolved if there are DHS, DCS issues that need to be addressed. So thank you for bringing that. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you being here.
I have Chairman Sparks next.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir, for coming up here, for making the drive.
You're welcome.
How many years you been an educator?
28 years. This is
28.
my 28th year.
Yes, sir. Man, I could keep you all day long with questions. You know, I don't like the breakdown that I'm seeing. I mentioned the other day that prison budget increased 600 million since I was elected in 2010, doubled to 1.2 billion dollars, and I really don't see no lobbyists lobbying to get those costs down. I don't like those costs. I don't think they're sustainable. I don't want to be up here in another 12 years and it's $2 billion. And I think this committee gets these issues. I've got a bill on social workers. We didn't fund it last year. I met with a counselor the other day, been touring a few schools, my old high school, Smyrna High School, talked to a counselor. Her caseload was like 400 or 530 students, I think.
Correct.
And I was asking about student behavior because I think that's a reason why teachers are having a hard time retaining and recruiting teachers. When I was back in school and Joe Towns was back in school, we just got our butts busted. I think we've taken too much discipline out of the schools, to be honest with you. But that counselor, I was asking her, she said she had a student that was acting up. It was just like a week or two earlier, a couple weeks earlier. And she said that teacher talked to her and about him. And she said, well, come find out he was sleeping on the floor, you know, I think a hotel. And then, you know, if you know what Maslow's hierarchy of needs are, you're not going to reach self-actualization if you don't have food, shelter, clothing, that sort of thing. It's also lacking clothing. So they went and got him some jeans and everything like that. But, you know, it just seems like society's getting off the rails. And it's only going to get worse when we lose the wisdom of folks like you and they're gone and we leave it to this next generation. Nothing against these young people that are here. But Joe Towns knows what I'm talking about. But, you know, you look at, it's a lot of funding. Let me ask you, could you make an argument that more investment in counselors and social workers is going to lead to less prison population, which is 28,000 incarcerated? Is there an argument for that?
I totally agree. Just this first semester, give you a quick data set.
Yes, sir.
We had 566 exclusionary consequences, meaning children were either suspended, expelled, or remanded to alternative school. Of those 566 incidents, 403 of those incidents was because of bullying, intimidation, fighting, or just being totally insubordinate. Now, the only consequence that we can give is a suspension when they're not following the rules. If we had someone who could talk to them about what they're doing and why they're making these decisions, maybe we wouldn't have so many repeat offenders. We're never going to get to the synthesis and evaluative levels of Bloom's taxonomy with our children in thinking and being creative if we're not able to equip our children not only to be able to think, but also be able to resolve. These same habits that they're exhibiting in public education become community ills. Many of these community ills are brought into the school, and that becomes a school infraction. So many schools are the spinoff or the reproduction of their community.
Yes, sir.
So that is an argument, and that's a great correlation that you made.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Well, I always think of my father was World War II. He was, I was told, the meanest man in my entire town. He was a strong disciplinarian. He always said, son, if you get arrested, don't call me. I ain't coming after you. I knew there was consequences. That's something I hear from teachers today, that there's lack of consequences. But do you see that today
Well,
for student
yes.
behavior?
Well, some consequences are zero tolerance. Of course, weapons,
Yes, sir.
fatal attacks and assaults. But I think consequences, teachers have so much responsibility of making sure children are in school, are passing, that the true teaching and learning processes are being denied or stymied. We're not focusing on the true teaching and learning process because we're dealing too much with these social ills. And teachers are not equipped and trained to deal with these social ills. They're spread too thin. We do so much that we're not good at anything, if that makes any sense. We haven't mastered anything. Until we learn to master English language arts, mathematics and science, technology and engineering, we cannot get to the real work because we're doing other things that used to be done in the home. The family structure has totally changed.
Yes, sir.
And we're having to be surrogate parents every day instead of being educators.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Well, thank you. I don't mean to keep rambling. I
No,
think what you're talking about is more important than every piece of legislation we're going to hear.
Thank you so
Seriously,
much.
we never get to the root of the problem on this stuff. Let me ask you this. I have a theory that one reason we're seeing this is lack of male role models, lack of fathers in the household. Do you think there's a correlation?
I think it's a correlation, but at the end of the day, it's just about being good people.
Yes, sir.
It's about integrity, doing what you're told, when you're told, and how you're told.
Yes,
Just
sir.
having respect for the laws, having respect for one another. Male role models are definitely important, especially real male role models for men. But young ladies need to know how a real man acts as well. So
Yes,
it's
sir.
not just about, we hear about a lot about black versus white. I get that. Social injustices, they definitely are there. But that's not the total key. The total key is just that we need to have integrity in everything that we do.
Yes, sir. One final comment, if you could, Chair Lady.
Yes, we
I
have others
always-
on the list.
I always remember I got paddled a lot in school. I remember my principal
too.
paddled me.
Right.
But I remember what most thing I remember about Mr. Rakes, he was a hard disciplinarian. He paddled everybody. And I remember him come up to me in the hall, put his arm around me, and he said, young man, I've always heard you're a very polite young man. Keep up the good work. And those words of probably affirmation, I guess it's called. I don't know. That stuck with me. It wasn't the paddlings, it was those kind words. I got to see him at our high school reunion. I sat with him and I offered him $100 for his paddle. He would not take it. And I'm gonna up the ante to $1,000 because I think we need to bring back discipline and get back to those basics until we get off the rails as a culture. And I think we're heading that direction. I just want to thank you and your colleagues for taking that trip from Memphis up here. And thank you, Representative Cooper, for the piece of legislation.
Thank you so much.
Next on the list is Chairman Sipiki.
Thank you for coming today. Your words have been very enlightening to most of the members here. And Ms. Cooper, thank you for bringing this to our attention. Really appreciate that. Just a couple of observations. You made some statements here that I couldn't agree with any more than the basics and fundamentals of education are the key to our success moving forward as a state.
Yes.
And until we clear that path for you, until the General Assembly clears that path for you at the local level, we're going to struggle in education. You are doing too much. You are 100 miles wide and an inch deep right now. And until we solve that problem as a General Assembly for you, to give you the freedom, the autonomy to be creative and innovative, we're never going to get there.
Correct.
Never going to get there. I know that, and we have some representatives here from your district. The ESSER funds that came down to Shelby County Schools were made to address some of these issues you're talking about. If you haven't received those funds to be able to get the help that you need in your schools, I'm sure your legislators will be more than happy to go to your school board or Mr. Ray and get the necessary funds you need to help these children as quick as you can. But if you have any issues with that, I'm sure your legislators will be more than happy to help you out there.
Thank you so much.
But thanks for coming. I really appreciate what you said.
Thank you so much.
Next on our list, Representative Dixie.
Thank you. We share the same first name, so I knew I was going to vote for this to begin with. But Ms. Cooper, I want to thank you for bringing this bill because you hit the nail on the head. You hit the nail on the head because what happens is we look at outcomes. How can we get our kids to pass this proficiency test when they're not all starting at the same level? We have to go back to the root cause. You're one of the few people who have said, let's address the root cause. And what we've heard here today is that we have to address the home situation. And unfortunately, my wife, she teaches at she teaches at a school similar to the school that with students that you just described. We've bought countless pairs of pants, shoes. My wife and I have even discussed adopting kids because their situations were so bad. And we've really said, hey, if we go through this process, we sat down and figured out, mapped out how we can get a kid because their situation was so bad and we felt that we could give them that environment that they needed to succeed. And I'm gonna give you a personal story. I didn't find this out. My mom passed away in 2018. And around that time we started talking. And my father was an alcoholic. And he was a very smart man, but he was a hell raiser. And my mom left him when I was in high school. And about a few months before she passed away, we just was talking. You know, she was sick, but we didn't know the end was that coming that near. And she said, I had to leave your dad in order for you to be successful. I did not know that all that time. But she made that sacrifice for me.
Yeah.
And everybody, and that's what drives me today, to try to address that root cause so that we're not so focused on high achievers, but we go back and pick up the people who are left behind. I was fortunate to have somebody in my life and people around me that carried me. So I hope that this committee understands that this is just opening the door for what needs to be done. We can't have lip service when it comes to helping our children. And I thank you for coming up here and doing this. This really needs to be addressed. And there's so many opportunities. I can give you countless stories about what happens at my wife's school. And it's heartbreaking. We have grandparents, in some instance, great-grandparents raising their kids. So that means your mama didn't want you, your daddy, your grandparents. You've gone through 3 generations of people to get there. And at that time, they're old and tired. They should be in their golden years, right? So I want to challenge all of us here on this committee to come up with legislation that addresses the root cause. Because I think if we can address the poverty and the home situation, that will help cure all the ills that's in our society right now. So we have to be vigilant and mindful and do what's best for all Tennesseans. And let's not be so divisive when it comes to our policies. And as you stated, it's not necessarily about black and white. It's about raising productive citizens. And thank you again. Thank you again, Ms. Cooper.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have Representative Harris.
Thank you, Chair Lady. And so I get an opportunity to represent parts of Memphis as well. And I want to first say thank you to Dr. Hunter for the years of hard work that you've put into Memphis in general. Anyone from the Memphis area will know that you are definitely a legend for a lot of people in Memphis, regardless of where the school is. Whitehaven has done some amazing work, both in athletics and academics. And so I want to recognize you for that because we didn't get an opportunity to properly recognize you for Teacher of the Year a couple years ago. So I want to make sure we acknowledge that as well. And one of the things that you said some time ago was don't try to outsmart people, just try to outwork them. And so I'll always remember that. And I know that you do an amazing job of working for our students, for our parents. And I think I'm probably, there's probably about a 15-year at least age gap for me and the rest of the people on the committee. And so I recognize that because even the things that I went through 15 years ago are much different than what the children now are dealing with in our education system. So it's just an evolving thing. And I'm glad to be a part of a committee where we try our best to focus in on how we can improve. And I'm glad that Dr. Representative Cooper did bring this legislation. It is something that we really need to focus in on. And I hope to be able to go to your school in a year, 2 years, and see how you've implemented this.
Wow.
So thank you.
You're welcome anytime. Thank you.
Thank you. Chairman White, you're next.
Thank you, Chair Lady, and I apologize for being late. I had some students from Germantown that were over in the Capitol, and I had to go say hello to them. I'm happy that we have students coming back in up here. It's so great to see them. So I was a little bit late getting in the bill, and I just, since I'm from Memphis also, I have been meaning to make an appointment with you for a long time to come out and tour the school and everything. So I need to get on your calendar, maybe when we get out of session. Just to back up what Representative Cooper is trying to do here. When I came to General Assembly, even at my age, I think you never quit learning.
Right.
So I went back to college and got a master's in conflict resolution. One of the best things I ever did, because it teaches you how to understand when people disagree with you and how to deal with it. And of all the things I learned there's one thing that always stuck with me is a quote that I forgot where it came from, but it was, when you're dealing with, especially sitting in committees like this, when you speak as though you're absolutely right. But when you listen as though you're absolutely wrong. And that's what we don't do a lot. We don't listen to each other because we already got our minds made up. And so that's a challenge. So Representative Cooper, kudos for bringing this legislation. Support you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? All right, seeing none, thank you again, Dr. Hunter.
Thank you
And
so much.
blessings on you and your work.
Okay. Thank you so much.
And Representative Cooper, we had another name on the list.
Yes, ma'am.
Is she Dr.
Madam-
Stewart?
Yes, ma'am. Doctor, Madam Chair, we did. And Doctor, may I say this, that Dr. Hunter is one of our top principal in the Shelby County, Memphis City Schools. And we just want to thank Mr. Walter Bates for joining vice president. So he's not vice president, vice principal. Dr. Hunter just couldn't do it all by himself. He has to have a good one with him. And I appreciate that. We do have, Madam Chair, with your approval, I will read a statement from Dr. Stewart, who could not be here due to an accident and on her foot. So she could not be here if it's approved.
Let us get us back into session and then we'll allow that for
All
you
right.
to do.
Thank you.
All right, members,
Madam.
we are back in
Thank you,
session.
Madam Chair.
All right, we're in a proper posture now.
Testimony on behalf of Alpha J. Stewart, MD, in support of House Bill 2818, Senior Associate Dean for Community Health Engagement, Director, Division of Public and Community Psychiatry, Director, Center of Youth Advocacy and Wellbeing, University of Tennessee Health Science Center, President-elect, American Association of Community Psychiatry, 105th President, American Psychiatric Association, 2018 through 2019. The Center of Youth Advocacy and Wellbeing at the University of Tennessee Health Science Center offers our strong support for House Bill 2818. We work every day with students who are challenged with interpersonal conflicts at school or in their neighborhood that often result in violent confrontations in school. Thank you. This places these young people at risk for entering the child welfare or justice system, often because of the untreated impact of adverse childhood experiences, trauma, and untreated, undiagnosed mental disorders. Exposure to violence is a problem in the homes, communities, schools, and online. And we know that exposure to violence harms a child's development, impairs school performance, and increases the likelihood of psychological and behavioral health problems. The latest Youth Risk Behavior Survey, the National Survey of High School Students, revealed disturbing facts about conflict leading to violence within students during the school day. 9% of children were threatened or injured involving students during the school day. 8% were in a physical fight on school property. 20% were bullied on school property. 11% of students reported that they did not want to go to school because they felt unsafe at school or on their way to and from school. Data for students in Tennessee are similar to these national results. And while the numbers appear small when this occurs in overcrowded schools and classrooms and involve youth experiencing toxic levels of stress, those results can be the same. The Center of Youth Advocacy and Well-Being works to address issues of youth violence and risk of justice involved by addressing the behavioral risk factors related to entering the school to prison pipeline. The protective factors included in House Bill 2818 regarding conflict resolution training for students and school staff will go a long way in reducing the likelihood of these events occurring in school and consequences associated with the youth that might be involved. In our work, we routinely work with children and families who both live in communities and homes where violence is prevalent. Our programs include a range of evidence-based models for prevention and interventions of violence that for staff and students. Schools need to have access to conflict resolution strategies that include education for staffs and students, with a primary goal to reducing student verbal and physical altercations nonviolently. We view conflict resolution as one tool in the toolbox to help reduce violence in our schools and communities, and therefore we offer our strong support for House Bill 2818. Thank you. Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for
I
reading that.
appreciate you and the committee, and I renew my motion. And
Right.
ask kindly for your vote.
Thank you very much. And questions been called. Any objection? Without objection, all in favor? All in favor of House Bill 2818, please say aye. Any opposed? Representative Cooper, you will move on to Finance, Ways, and Means.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
All right, members, that brings us to item number 5, House Bill 2460 by Chairman Rudder. You are recognized. You have a second and a motion.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee. There are some amendments.
Yes, let's take care of those. What's your first one? You had a timely filed, so we'll do that one
Timely
first.
filed is 015733.
All right. Motion and a second. We have a motion to add to the bill. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? We add this one to the bill. 015733 is added.
Untimely filed
Yes, ma'am.
is 016256.
We have a motion and second to consider 016256. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? All right, we have a motion. We are adding the motion. First of all, let's go back. 016256 is added. To adopt it. Okay, sorry. I thought we did it. I'm sorry. Okay, now we will vote on adding 016256. Please say aye. Any opposed? Seeing none. We have both added, and now we're going to put those two amendments together.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Do I have a motion? Can I do that? All right. This is my first one. Okay, so we will just roll those two together without objection. Seeing none, two amendments are now added as one. Now, Chairman Rudder, you are welcome to explain.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. House Bill 2460 is a simple little bill that will make a big impact in our classrooms. Will give our teachers a great opportunity for more instructional time. It's simply a request that the testing schedule for TCAPs will begin 20 days from the end of school. So the 20-day window will give the same testing window time, but we'll move it back to the end of the school year to give maximum time for teachers to work with students, preparing them for the test and reviewing all the information. This change will provide instructional time for the teachers to spend more time with those students. We will get the raw scores back in 10 days and the conversion scores back in 15. As we start to transition to online testing, this should become a more efficient. And last but not least, it will give more time to the pacing guide that LEAs have for their teachers to teach all the standards for that grade level. That is the bill, and I encourage you to support it, and I'll stand for any questions.
Excuse me, hit the wrong button. All right, we have questions been called. We do have an objection. All right, we've got 3 objections. All in favor of the question on the bill, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
All right, it sounded tied to me. So I'll take a roll call. All right, the question's been withdrawn. Thank you. Chairman White, I recognize you.
Okay, sorry, and sorry for the delay, but Representative Rudder, we go so fast that I hadn't had a chance to ask you. One thing I want to make clear, and you're saying what has come to my attention is that we get to the end, not every school, because of paper testing, can do this. Can you help clarify where we are on that? That was some of the objections and pushback that I was getting, because just the time frame wasn't possible under our current testing, especially since we implemented paper testing. Can you help me out there?
I don't really understand why it wouldn't be possible, because yes, there are different schools stop at different times, but this just requests them to move it back 20 days. I mean, 20 days from the end of school, it's the same testing window, still 3 to 4 weeks. So I don't really understand why they would not have time to, or you're talking about get the test results back or to
Right.
give the test?
Yes.
I don't understand why they would not have time.
Okay.
to give the test because it's the same testing window. It just gives, it moves the time back and gives the teachers more instructional time. And one thing that I failed to note or to tell you is that when I decided that this was a piece of legislation I was very much interested in, I did contact some teachers in my district. And we talk a lot about doing things to help our teachers in the classroom have additional classroom time. And this is such a simple thing. And this is a direct quote from a teacher. Yes, I think it would be beneficial. When we test in March, we still have almost 2 months of lessons that either haven't been taught, but will be tested over, or everything has to be so rushed trying to get it in before the test that it's so much harder for us to do our best and for them to do their best. Another quote, yes, taking the test at the end of the year, like we used to, would be helpful because it would give teachers more time to cover the standards with less pressure rushing through it. So that was my motivation. And I hope that you will
Yeah. Well,
support
thank you for the
the
explanation. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. And I do notice we have the Department of Ed on a list. Are y'all thumbs up, thumbs down, or want to come forward? You want to come forward? We will be able to allow 3 minutes for each.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Charlie Bufalino with the Department of Education. I'm joined by my colleague, Jack Powers, with the department. We have concerns with this bill, even with the amendments. And essentially, I think what it comes down to is by shifting the assessment window back to not being able to start until 20 days from the end of school creates practical and logistical concerns for our school districts and everyone involved. Essentially, if this were to become law, it would face the department with two unsavory choices. The first of which would be because school districts have different end calendar dates. Some of them end the second week of May. A lot of them end right after Memorial Day, but some stretch into June. It would force us to have at a minimum 3 separate assessment windows. Currently, we have one. It's 3 weeks. For this year, it's from April 18th to May 6th. In having 3 assessment windows, that can create concerns about test security. It is very important for us to make sure we maintain the validity and the reliability of our assessment. And we have worked very hard in the years since some testing snafus to make sure that we ensure that and credibility in the test. That would jeopardize this. The second option we would be faced with would be to say to school districts, we can't jeopardize test security. And so we are going to have one assessment window regardless of when you end school. In order to follow this law, we would have to take the latest date by which school ends. So that would be the first week of June based on current school calendars and map out 20 days from that. That would create a situation in which many school districts would have a limited amount of time to test, perhaps as short as 5-6 days in order to comply with this law. If we want to go down in this direction, it would make more sense for the General Assembly to direct school districts to change their school calendars to comply with this, because that is the situation we would be forcing upon them. The last thing I'll note, and then I'll turn it over to my colleague, this is something that school districts have control over and can do now if they want to. If they want to ensure that testing is not happening till the end of the school year, they can change their school calendar. We're required by statute to notify school district by July 1st of the year preceding when that testing window is going to be. This last year, we gave them that information in January. That is plenty of time for school districts to adjust their calendars if this is something they want to do. Mr. Powers, if you have anything to add, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The only other thing that I would add is I would call out a very small but important percentage of our students in Tennessee, and those are our students with profound learning disabilities. Right now, that very small percentage of students actually takes a different TCAP assessment called TCAP Alt, and the window for TCAP Alt is going on right now. The reason why those students take their test at a different time in the year is because many of them need that test proctored by a one-on-one teacher. And they do better when they take those tests outside of the hustle and bustle of the regular window. This bill, by requiring us to set one testing window that could occur no later than 20 days before the last school date calendar ends, would require those students to begin testing during the same time as all of the other tests. So during the hustle and bustle of, as we've mentioned before, not only TCAP tests, but now if we're doing them all in the same 20-day window, AP tests, Cambridge tests. So it would create a scenario where not only are our students with profound learning disabilities taking their tests at the same time where they have previously not, but we could also potentially have students in high school that are taking their TCAP tests in the morning and then going into an AP test in the afternoon because we have no control over those dates. Thank you.
Thank you both. I think we do have some questions, if y'all don't mind sticking with us. I have on the list Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you all for that announcement. You actually answered a couple of my questions. So the sponsor said in her initial statement that the teachers talked about testing in March. So, but then I heard you all say the window is from April 18th through May 6th, which in fact is the case.
The testing window for this school year is April 18th to May 6th.
Is that a typical kind of time?
Yeah, our testing window, with one notable exception, which was COVID last year, where we extended quite a bit more sort of flexibility with some remote learning things of that nature. But generally, it is right around the same time every school year.
Okay, thank you for that. And you also said that the schools get that window in ample time to set their date, which they could do 20 days before school right now. Correct.
Yes, sir. We're required by statute to set that July 1 of the year preceding. This last school year, school districts were informed of that testing window in January.
Okay. All right. And I guess my I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
I apologize.
No, you're right.
I guess my last question to the department is: have there been studies on effectiveness of testing far out versus closer to the end of school year? Is there any data you can say about that? Are there any suggestions you can have on that?
Thank you for the question. To my knowledge, no, but there ought to be. In the amendment that we had proposed, the sponsor, because we're not opposed to this idea on the face of it, it needs more study. As my colleague mentioned, there's a lot of factors that go into setting this window: AP assessments, the special needs student ALT assessment. We have to kind of look at all of those things and set the best window possible while maintaining test validity and security and those things. Our proposal, and we spoke to the comptroller's OREA office about this, would be to ask them to study this and for us to look at this over the summer, to survey all of our districts and see what might be possible here so that we can have some more of that information and proceed accordingly. You know, we certainly agree with the intent of this to try to maximize instructional time. That's important. That's something that we should work toward, but we need to do so to make sure we're not creating additional problems for our school districts and ensuring we can have a valid, reliable test so we are measuring the effectiveness of how well we are educating students in our state.
Thank you. Next, Chair Lady Weaver, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. And thank you, Charlie and Jack. I've read through this, and you've been to my office numerous times and brought your case before me. And I do like to get both positions. I think that's the only way we can get both sides of the story. It's the only way we can make ample, wise decisions when both of those concerns are brought. As I read both and look at it and the practical part of it, I don't see a problem with it. What I do see is teachers, boots on the ground, who are actually in the classroom and not up here. They're actually in the classroom trying to work at ways of helping their students succeed. And it seems to me that it's something that they would like to do. Why go through a study, which just kicks the can down the road? Why not just let us be able to, not let us, why not we vote on this, allow it to be put into action, and then allow the proof in the pudding to prove that this is definitely helping our students. They have more teaching time. That seems to be one of the biggest discussions we have up here. They're always teaching to the test. They're always rushing to get their test results in. And it's stressful, and it's not a good atmosphere for these children. why not listen to the boots on the ground here? And why not allow this bill to be passed and say, here's one for our teachers. Again, they have brought to us a concern. They have brought to us something that can work for them. I think it's time that we start really bending our ear to them and listening to what they have to say in the classroom. I can understand your concerns, but just let it fly. Let them try it. We're all here to achieve the same goal, and that is number one, to help our teachers have the tools they need to do what they need to do. But the most important reason is to see our children, yes, get an amazing education. This is one of those simple, easy, it doesn't even have a fiscal note on it. Hallelujah. It's just called common sense. Just let the bill fly and let the ones who are in the boots on the ground in those classrooms, let them try it. And we can come back here next year and say, by golly, we didn't have to do a study. We actually tried it and it worked. And I like the bill and I am in total support of it. And thank you. If you have any comments, you're welcome.
Sure. Thank you for that. And I mean, I certainly would not contest with anything you said and the intent to try to maximize time. We do need to do this right. We need to make sure that there aren't unintended consequences that are going to hurt some of our teachers, and removing local control of their calendars, crunching things into a short timeline that doesn't give them adequate time to test. That is not something that our teachers are going to want to see. We need to figure out what's the best way and the best approach to this. We thought a study to look at it, to look at some data, to talk to some teachers, to survey in a way to figure this out. There are real potential unintended consequences if y'all decide to proceed with this. We are just noting those concerns.
Yes, Chair Lady.
And your comments are well accepted. That's fair. But again, we don't want to micromanage every moment and every option. I mean, just let them do what they do best. And then we can come back here next year and go, this needs tweaked or this needs tweaked. We do that all the time down here. So again, I understand your comments and they're fair, but I'm going to support the bill because I think we just need to let the teachers do what they do best, and that's teach and listen to their reasons why they think this is good. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Department.
Thank you. On our list next is Chairman White.
Thank you very much. That's where, I appreciate getting asked the question a while ago, because now I'm really confused. But no, I understand. But to Representative Rutter's credit, I think, and I asked her, we go back in session, who brought you this bill, but always been a very strong supporter of end of course and TCAP. But the biggest thorn in our side is they keep telling us, once we do that, school might as well be over and the teaching stopped and everything. So I understand why she's bringing this, and I agree a lot with what Representative Weaver says. But at the same time, I don't want to do something to our schools to micromanage them, as y'all say. So, I'm a little bit in a dilemma right now. I think the representatives comes from a good angle, though. So keep talking.
Thank you. Next is Representative Parkinson.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. Can you put me on the bill, please?
I sure can.
Okay, thank you.
All right, members, anyone else on the amendment? All right, without opposition, we'll go back in session. Hearing none.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. All right. Representative Parkinson, we'll go to you.
I wasn't ready, Madam Chair, but I'll be ready. And thank you, Madam Sponsor. Can you briefly, one more time, explain what this amendment is doing? Because I think I love it, and I just want to know.
What the bill does?
Yes, ma'am.
It sets the testing window 20 days from the end of school. That's it.
And regarding the cut score,
The cut scores back in 10 days, the conversion scores back in 15. That puts that into law.
and thank you for bringing this bill. And I don't know if it will affect this portion of what I've been asking for A lot of times the scores or the cut scores are not set until after the tests have been administered and are graded. And you know, it was always interesting to me that if the schools didn't know where the finish line was, then and what would be qualifying and non-qualifying, for the department to give them that after the race is over it was weird to me. And so I don't know if your bill fixes that or helps with that, so that these schools know before the tests are graded, possibly what the qualifying line is, you know. But I don't know if your bill will do that. But this is obviously a step in the right direction, though. And so I hope that, you know, I don't know if maybe you can find some language in your bill that would add that to it too, so that people know where the goal line is, and it's not moved once the tests are graded. And if you think about that, that means that, hey, we'll grade the test and then we'll decide how big the net is for the schools that are not performing after we've graded the test. That makes sense to you? Little? I'm left-handed, so it made more sense.
You're
to me.
left-handed.
Right.
After they grade the test, it would seem to me they would have to have that information before they could give you the raw scores and the cut scores. They would have to know what the results were.
Yes, Representative.
And well, let's look at it this way. So if we're running a sprint, we know where the finish line is before we start running that sprint. Under what has been the practice of the Department of Education, the schools, the teachers, and the districts don't know where the finish line is until the race is over. And then Department of Education comes back and say, oh, okay, well, here's your qualifying score. What will qualify you as, you know, being out of our target, so to speak, for underperforming schools. So think about it like this. Right now, once they take the test, they grade, the department grades the test, and then they say what is an underperforming school and what is not. If the schools, the districts, the teachers, the students' parents knew what level you had to reach before they took the test, they would have a better idea of what to shoot for. And so it's weird to me that the department decides what's qualifying after the race is run, after the tests are graded. So if you took a test in chemistry and your chemistry teacher said that we're not going to decide what's passing or failing until after I grade the test, that's equivalent to what the department is doing with our students in their TCAP tests. And I think that's weird. And it should be explained on the front end, as your chemistry teacher would explain. If you get a 70 or above, you've passed. But under what we are under now, they do not decide what's passing or failing until after the tests are graded. And so I don't know if your bill addresses that, but I really wish it would. But and if it doesn't, I think this is a step in the right direction. And I hope that you'll come back with another one that says, by law, y'all will tell them what's qualifying and what's not before this test is administered.
I do understand what you're saying, but this piece of legislation does not address that.
Okay.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. All right, question's been called. Any objection? Seeing none, we will take up voting on House Bill 2460. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and
referred
committee.
Calendar and rules. All right, members, are you ready to hang with me? We have got 10 minutes before we have to get out of here. So we're going to take up House Bill 2057, number 6 on our calendar. You have a motion and a second. I see there's an amendment.
Yes, Madam Chair, the amendment code, drafting code is 15140.
Motion and second on the amendment. We have a motion to add it without objection. Seeing none, adds to the bill.
Thank you,
You are
Madam Chair.
recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee. In the interest of time, I'll make my explanation brief. Essentially, what this bill does is it requires the Department of Education to annually report to the education committees of the Senate and the House of Representatives data on reading instruction provided by the education preparation providers, parentheses, teachers' colleges, for teachers licensed in the grades of kindergarten through K3. And this is supposed to be done by August 1st. In each of the by 2024 and in each of the following years. The DOE is required to publish this report on its website and provide it in graphic and tabular fashion so that people can manipulate the data and analyze it as they choose. I can go into a long explanation of what's required on this, but what it boils down to, a straightforward manner, is seeing what new teachers that are coming into the classroom in K through 3 to teach literacy are able to do. And I will point out to this committee that I know very few human beings, if any, that intentionally screw up. So if the students of these teachers are not performing and advancing in literacy, I submit to you it's probably because those teachers weren't properly prepared by their teachers' colleges. The purpose of this bill is for us to gather data. It emphasizes that the State Board of Education, which already has the authority, but it emphasizes the State Board of Education may suspend or revoke the ability of these teachers' colleges to take new students if their performance is not satisfactory. That said, this data is going to be vitally important to us regardless of which funding bill we finally decide to go with, because what it enables us to do is make corrections at the source, the teachers' colleges or the education preparation providers. With that explanation, there's a lot of detail in the bill. I'd be glad to answer questions.
Thank you for that explanation, members. Any questions for the sponsor? Yes, I see Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So help me understand, if there's a teacher, is there a limit on the time that you'll go back and, I'm going to paraphrase, penalize the higher ed institution for a what this bill deems as a poor performer? Not is there a statute of limitations on that?
Madam Chair?
Yes, you recognized.
In the bill, it specifies 3 years. Presumably, a teacher who's been in the classroom for 3 years, if they haven't mastered their trade by then, with the help that is provided by their peers, probably some other action is appropriate.
Any other questions? Oh, I see. Representative McKenzie.
Yeah, so you're saying only for the first 3 years will a teacher's students' grades go against the university? After that, there's going to be other measures. Is that what this bill does?
This bill doesn't provide the other measures, but yes, and I prefer not to use the term against. The idea is that we create a standard and ask them to meet it. And if they don't, there's penalties for not. It's like running a race.
Right, but there's no carrot there. I guess the carrot is you can continue to be a higher education institution of higher education. That bothers me, Mr. Sponsor, in that there's a gradient in this. There are, if we fully expect all 100% of teachers or 80% of teachers to be day one ready, teaching some of the most difficult children that are out there. A lot of our new teachers, and believe me, I know, because they come through my schools in my district, and when they get their chops, they tend to want to transfer to some of the more fluent, more higher paying LEAs. That those teachers coming out day one, going into some of the most difficult environments, are going to be judged, and there's colleges are going to be judged for those first 3 years. I just think that this is a well-intended piece of legislation, but I think that you're going to be surprised with the results. I would like to see where those teachers are placed. If those teachers are placed in your great schools, at the place that I work, if they're not meeting that, I am all for it. But if there are some of these places that we heard about earlier from the testimony, we're going to have a different outcome, achievement, growth, all of it because of the things that they're bringing to their classrooms with them. So that's my deep concern with this piece of legislation. Thank you.
Yes, Chairman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And to address your concerns, sir, I will point out to you that no single EPP or education preparation provider sends all of their students to low-performing schools nor to high-performing schools. They are a cross-section across the state. With that, sir, statistics will level the playing field, and this bill allows for averages of 3 years of performance.
All right, seeing no other members on the, all right, question's been called. Any objection to the question? Seeing none, all in favor of House Bill 2057, please say aye. Any opposed? Passes to Gov Ops.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Committee.
All right, members, we have 3 minutes. Chairman White.
Thank you, Chair Lady. And these are some very easy ones. I can knock these out if you be well.
You have a motion and
757.
second.
This is a cleanup bill for Title 49. Each year, we solicit input from the Department of Education, State Board of Education, and THEC and other stakeholders on places the code needs cleanup. And I can go over them with you, or you can read them on your own.
Do you have an amendment?
The amendment is, I'm sorry,
No, that's
14346. Is that the one?
There's 1015320.
Okay, let me double check. That's correct. That's correct.
All right, we have a motion and second on adding the amendment. Any opposition? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. We will add that on. Question's been called on the bill. Any objection? Calling the question. All right, all in favor of House Bill 0757, please say aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, you move on to calendar and rules. Chairman White.
Thank you.
All right, we got 2 minutes. Chairman White, you want to go?
I can knock this one out real
All
quick,
right.
if y'all's will.
We're on number 8, House Bill 2429.
House Bill 2429. This was the amendment 15326. Is that?
Correct. Motion is second without opposition. We'll add it to the bill.
This was brought to me by our chambers of commerce, especially my Memphis chamber. It deals with Industry 4.0 diplomas. This legislation requires the State Board of Education to develop a high school diploma for next-gen technology jobs, give students pursuing the diploma access to career coaches, and streamlines requirements to obtain occupational teacher license. It's just put in place, have the State Board put in place where our 11th and 12th graders can take certain CETE courses to move on into the workplace. It's a good workforce dual enrollment bill.
And members, just to be clear, all in favor of adding this amendment to the bill, please say aye. Any opposed? All right. You're in proper order. Any questions? Yes. Who had the question? And I'm sorry. Representative Parkinson. All right. Question has been called. Any opposed? All right. Seeing none, all in favor of House Bill 2429, please say aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, you go to calendar and rules. Oh, okay. Well.
All right, we're going to move along here and try to get this done. We're on item number 9, House Bill 0751. Representative Moody, you're recognized. A motion and a second.
Thank you very much.
Do you have an amendment?
Yes.
Is that amendment 012543?
Correct.
Second, you have a motion and a second. Just give us a brief description of the amendment. The motion has been made to add item 012543 to the bill. You are recognized.
Thank you so much.
All those in favor say aye. All right, we're ayed. Okay. She's going to speak to the amendment.
On the amendment, what we're doing is adding the, a specific learning disability, and this goes along with our individualized education savings account for special needs students. So this is adding a specific learning disability to that list.
All right, members, you heard the explanation of the amendment. Do we have any questions on the amendment? Representative McKenzie, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And my question is, have we done any research to see how, I think there's about 300 kids that are now part of this program for other disabilities. Have we done any data gathering to see how successful they are with this specialized incentive?
Madam Chair, you're recognized.
You know, I could not say specifically. I've seen a study, and it is, I think, just right at under 300 that are currently enrolled.
You're recognized, Representative McKenzie.
Thank you. You know, and looking at the numbers, it looks like this number is going to almost double with this one addition, this specific learning disability, and we don't really know where we are on it. I mean, it just seems a bit premature, or it doesn't seem to make a lot of you know, sense in terms of we are doing a lot already in our school system. So what programs do they have that make them better able to teach dyslexic kids?
Madam Chair, you're recognized.
Thank you. Well, I think to that, it is amazing to me as we look at what our LEAs do. I'm overwhelmed just thinking about how many disabilities they are faced with, and year after year they never know what's coming to them. And so my hat's off to the job that they have been doing. So if you want to look at this as a more of a parent involvement bill, where there are certain cases where the schools just aren't able to meet the needs, and so this is just a tool in the tool belt for a parent that thinks there's something else outside, and this would help them reach that goal for their child and that specific learning disability that they may have. And it is diagnosed by a school psychologist. You know, there's parameters for how they would qualify. And I think too, to speak to, well, I know we have to look at, well, if everybody did take advantage of it, how many would that be? I get that. But as we've seen, this is the 7th year, and we're right at under 300. And that was, you know, I was the original House sponsor along with Senator Gresham. And that was our case, was we believe most parents are satisfied. But for those parents that are struggling and need that extra help and will have to go outside, this is who this bill is for. And that's why we don't believe it will be a mass exodus out of our schools.
Members, I'm just going to remind you, we're on a hard stop here. We have to be out of here, so please keep your questions to the point. We're on amendment. Parkinson, you're recognized. Quickly.
Madam Chair, this, I can't be quickly. This is an important bill that actually expands vouchers. And so this is not one that we can rush through without having a real discussion about. So I hope that we can, I want us to roll this bill to the next calendar so that we can actually have a real discussion on this. This is not one that we can jam through or to the hill of the calendar. This is not one that we can jam through like we did with Chairman White's bills. And so, Madam Chair Lady, I hope that you would give that some consideration so we can actually have a real conversation about this.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Thank you.
Adjourned.
Thank you all.